Innovation. Well, that's a word that currently means just about nothing in the games industry because, well, nothing means anything anymore. People have diluted words to the point where they basically don't mean a thing anymore. Much like interactive used to mean something and now it just means, how dare you call our walking simulator not a game? But at one time, some games were innovative. Some games had innovation crawling out of the monitor and just throttling you with new ideas, with good ideas, with amazing ideas. And those are the top 7 most innovative games ever made. Games that defined, redefined, overdefined, and basically kind of made games what they are today. Well, no, they made games what they could be today, but aren't because some people think the rest is a game for some reason. I don't know why. And they get all upset when you say that it's not a game for some reason, like you insulted their ancestors by saying that. And that being said, let's get on with it. Number 7. XCOM. This is a sacred monster of gaming, as I have mentioned in another show that isn't in English sadly, but it does have English subtitles. Go check it out. XCOM defined and refined some basic concepts that we maybe take for granted nowadays. It defined good tactical combat, the kind of combat that you can replay a billion times and still have fun, still find entertaining in some way, even challenging, because it had variety. It had enemies that would hunt you down and kill you. It had destructible terrain. It had a lot of things. And the other thing it did fantastically was emergent storytelling. You crafted your own story. You decided what would happen next. You decided where to hit the aliens, when to hit them, what to research, what weapons to use, what soldier lived and died. And you got attached to them. You formed stories in your head about them. You gave them names. And it was fantastic. So fantastic that even now, this seems like some sort of miracle in game design when it's actually the absence of actually having a plot. Well, an actual story with characters and stuff. But still, XCOM did everything, well, almost everything. It had a very horrible interface, but it did most things right. Number 6. Frontier Elite 2. Picture this. It's October 1993. Doom hasn't been released yet. And here's a game that lets you explore the entire galaxy. And I mean, the entire galaxy. With every star and every planet in it. A game where you could not just see distant dots on the screen representing planets and stars. No, a game where you could enter a planet's atmosphere and land in ports which were there, that existed, that were filled with all sorts of other ships. Well, not a lot of them because we're talking about 1993 when if someone had a 486, they were the ballingest baller on the block. But still, this game achieved in 1993 what people are now clamoring for with No Man's Sky, Elite Dangerous, and Star Citizen. It did it before just about anyone could actually appreciate the grandeur of it all, the scale, the complexity. And what's very important here is that this wasn't an arcade. This wasn't a game where you just pointed at a planet and just went there. No, no, no. This game took into account things such as gravity, orbits, and the very important fact that if you speed up to, well, over light speed, you're gonna have to slow down at some point, or basically your ship's never gonna actually stop. And if you don't slow enough, when you hit an atmosphere, you will literally hit the atmosphere and explode. This game had no plot, no story, no characters. You just lived in it. You couldn't win it, you couldn't beat it, you could just be there. In a starship of the imagination, exploring the galaxy. Again, the entire galaxy. Number 5. The Dune games. It's a bit difficult to put one above the other, and I didn't want to boot some other game from this list, so I'll leave them both here. Dune and Dune 2 were released in the same year, quite actually close to each other. They were published by the same company, so basically that's the reason why the other one is called Dune 2, even though it's not actually a sequel. Dune 2 you probably know already. Dune 2 defined the RTS. Dune 2 is real-time strategy as we know it now, or knew it before it turned into MOBAs, basically, because people think a MOBA is a strategy game for some reason. It's a game that, although maybe a bit hard to play now because you don't have right-click attack, right-click move, and so forth, made StarCraft possible, made Warcraft possible, made every game about strategy in real time that you know possible. And it did it with a setting that was just superb, in a way that honestly, by comparison, makes other strategy games seem boring. I mean, you don't have in Warcraft 2 a Shaikolot that's gonna eat your harvester, because you don't have harvesters, you have mines, and that's it. And then there's Dune, which is a game that's similar and yet very different. It does have real-time strategy elements, but on a much grander scale. I could almost compare this with, well, games like Hearts of Iron and maybe Europa Universalis, but where you only have one single entity, one nation based, well, two nations. There's also the Harkonnen. You gathered resources, you recruited soldiers, and it wasn't on a mission-by-mission basis. Everything happened in the same place, in the same space, in one continuous game. One that wasn't just about strategy. It also had an adventure component to it. You were a character, you were Paul Atreides. You talked with other characters, you explored this world. You could pilot a chopper or ride a worm. Simply put, it was a game like you're not bound to see that often anymore, because you basically don't. Just name one adventure strategy, well, basically adventure grand strategy game. There aren't any. Well, not one with a plot and characters and story in it. The closest you'd get is probably Crusader Kings 2, and that didn't have sandworms and nukes in it. Number 4. Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. At first I wanted to put Civilization here because Civilization is a magnificent game that has sucked me dry of so many years of my life, and all I want to do is play it more. But Alpha Centauri made Civilization its bitch. Though you can probably fault the gameplay for having so many units on the screen at the same time that basically it takes about 3 months for the AI to finish taking its turn after you pass the, 300 turn barrier, there are a few things you cannot deny. Alpha Centauri was a good strategy game, it had a fantastic setting, and most of all, it is the only strategy game of its type that has an actual good story in it. A well-told story, a story that's ingrained in the gameplay. It has better storytelling than most games ever made. It has more character development in its AI scripts than most games have in their actual script. It's a game that aims to challenge you, to teach you, to broaden your horizons, to entertain and educate you at the same time. And it is goddamn glorious. Again, I made a show about it, not in English, but it has English subtitles if you want to see it. It's on this channel. Also, it's a game that's a bit prophetic in a lot of ways. Also, if at any point in your life you think, hey, maybe Beyond Civilization was good, no. Exile that thought from your mind because no, Beyond Civilization sucked. Number 3. Ultima Underworld. This game made first-person 3D, like we know it implemented in most first-person games, possible. It made it immersive. It made it in a way that, well, no one else up until then actually could. And it did that in 1992. It did it before Doom. It did it even before Wolfenstein 3D existed. It's a game that not only had fantastic graphics for its time, but it had a deep, cohesive world which you explored. A world that wasn't just filled with enemies, it was filled with life. It was a believable world, even though there were monstrous trees on the lower levels and basically Satan locked up behind a gate. This was a game that felt more like a place than a game. It had depth, it had complexity, it had a beauty in its design which you don't often see in most games. But you did see it in its spiritual sequels, in System Shock, in Thief, in Deus Ex, in some parts of Bioshock, in Arx Fatalis, and Dishonored, and yes, even in the Elder Scrolls series like Skyrim, though Skyrim is really horrible by comparison in terms of depth, detail, and at times actual gameplay. Number 2. Mud. Now, I have made a show in English about this game. Well, not about it exactly, but I talked about it in Corrupting An Ideal, the Dark Age of the MMO. This is the game that defined multiplayer interaction on a massive scale. Though at the time the scale was tens, maybe hundreds of people, where now it can be not millions, but thousands of people. And yet Mud allowed you to interact with people in such a way that you can't in most MMOs today because, well, it was simpler back then to implement interaction when you just had text. You could make verbs and nouns, define them, and that was it. You didn't need graphics. And in that simple world, people lived, people learned, people expressed themselves, people became better people. It was, in some way, a social experiment, if you will, one that partly succeeded. It helped people, it brought people together, it formed communities, it showed us how beneficial games could be for humanity. And yet it also spawned lots of clones that didn't get the message and just basically thought it was all about grind. Number 1. Ultima 4. Though I should probably give this to all the Ultima games from 4 to 7 because when it came to innovation, this was it. This was the series that sort of defined innovation. Just think about it. What was the main plotline of Ultima 4? It was you, as a character, becoming better. Not just by gaining strength and better gear, but by actually becoming a better person. Becoming the embodiment of virtue. Becoming the figurehead of a religion. You didn't fight some evil. Well, you sort of did fight an evil. The evil within. Your evil. Your tendency to, hey, let's kill that enemy right now. Your tendency to, I don't know, hey, this shopkeeper's blind, let's rob him. In 1986, 30 years ago, this was a game that defied genre norms. Ones that we currently celebrate a few indie games for defying. And back then, this wasn't an indie game. Sure, it was made by basically one person, but most games were at the time, and this one was huge. Ultima 4 was huge. And it didn't stop there, because after you became the figurehead of a religion, the next game took that entire idea and twisted it. Twisted it to the point where you just had to stand back and marvel at how well this game represented the real world. And the next one, oh my god, well, oh my me, since it's Ultima, it just twisted it even further, until you suddenly understood how someone who believed to their core that they were doing the right thing for the right reasons could be a monster. Sure, the game didn't maybe spell it out as much because text was at a premium back then, you couldn't do that much text in a game, but it did it through gameplay, which is what a game should do. It's not the text, it's not the graphics, it's not the sound, not the characters, not the voices, it's the gameplay that can teach you the most, that can make you actually understand something. And when it came to Ultima, few things can compare, because if you want to talk sandbox games, Ultima 7 let you bake bread and turn off candles. And although it had terrible combat, that game really had just about the highest degree of environmental interaction you could find in a game, no matter when it was made. Well, that was it for the top 7 most innovative games ever made. Special mentions are awarded to Ultima Online because it took the Ultima 7 concept and made it online, though maybe not to the same standard as MUD. To the 7th guest because it defined what movies and games combined could do. Most games made by Troika because they all set a standard of design that, well, most game developers have no idea exists, let alone are able to achieve it. And to the original Prince of Persia game because it was just fantastic in gameplay and art in just about every way.
If you enjoyed this show, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Or, if you thought it was horrible, then share it with your enemies and make them suffer. We shall be your weapon of vengeance. But if you liked what you saw, you could, I don't know, maybe donate, because basically YouTube is horrible at revenue, by using the link in the description, or just buy my book. It's a fantasy book about, well, a lot of stuff. I guarantee it won't suck, and if it does suck, you can find me here and complain about it.